Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the No Good Podcast. We are joined by an illustrious guest. This man really needs no introduction, especially for our Canadian listeners. He's one of the flyest politicians in the world, the leader of the New Democratic Party of Canada. This is Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet, my life of Punjabi friends has prepared me for this moment right here to use the phrase with the leader of the NDP. So, Sat Sri Akal ji.
Wow, amazing. Sat Sri Akal ji. I should say, Halesh Mushutori.
Yes, let's go.
Khubi, I hope. Khubi.
Khuba. Merci.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear.
Hope you're good, man. Hope everything is good on your side. Obviously, with a crazy world that we're living in right now with the pandemic, I hope everything is good on your side with your family and whatnot.
Yeah, brother. Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild time for everybody. I feel for everyone who's gone through this. It's kind of all over the place. So some people have felt it really hard with job losses, loved one or themselves lost a job, or people have just been really uncertain, like what's going on, the uncertainty, the unpredictability for families, for kids, for seniors in long-term care. It's been horrible. But on a personal note, I've been healthy, family's good, and I'm staying positive.
That's good, man. That's good. I'm glad to hear, man. I mean, that's the best part about this interaction that we get to do online is to kind of be able to replace what we miss out on in real life, right? So it's
right.
Good.
For sure. Just speaking about the pandemic, a lot of people through this pandemic have dealt with something that's been called the pandemic fatigue, and it's gotten to the point where the mental health crisis has become somewhat of a silent pandemic issue. What's your advice to Canadians that might be dealing with their own mental health issues right now?
Don't be quiet about it. I remember as a kid growing up and I was having struggles, I tried to keep it to myself. I didn't talk about it. And that was the worst thing you can do. Open up, talk to someone. It's okay. We're all going through this, but certainly reach out for help. And what we're noticing is in this pandemic, we're getting a bit isolated. And so though we still have to respect physical distancing and we can't be with people in person, but there's many ways to connect. So try to find those ways to connect with people. We are very social. Humans are social. We need to have that interaction and vibe with people. So find ways to stay connected despite the limitations we're faced with.
Right. I mean, not only it's limitations in terms of, social distancing and whatnot, but it's also a financial limitation for a lot of people. And I know CERB has been helping a lot of people out as well. The Liberal government just recently announced that CERB repayments would no longer be expected from self-employed Canadians. Do you believe this process took too long for Canadians who incorrectly applied kind of in quote unquote good faith?
Oh, absolutely. I was out months and months ago, right before the holiday season hit. And I said, why is this government? Why are the Liberals going after self-employed people who were told they were okay to apply? And they know this. They know that they had given information. And based on that information, people applied. It was more than just good faith. They followed the rules. And the Liberal government went after them. And many people sold their cars, sold their homes to pay back the money because people don't have $10,000, $12,000 laying around. They were scared when they heard they had to pay it back when they didn't do anything wrong. Then on the flip side, we know of this. These are public companies, over 60 companies that took public money because they were feeling the pressures of COVID-19. Their sales were down, but then they turned around and paid out dividends. You only pay out a dividend if you made a profit. And the Liberal government didn't go after those companies. So you're going to go after self-employed people who applied following the rules, make them suffer through the holiday season with all this uncertainty, and let the big wealthy companies that took money from the public and then turned around and paid out dividends and let them off the hook. That's a matter of choices. And that was the wrong choice that the Liberals made.
Right.
No,
definitely. I get fired up, but man, I thought that was unfair.
No, I definitely couldn't agree more. I know countless people who have been in that situation have had anxiety over it, just wondering what to do in the situation. And it's a little bit very uncertain to say the least. But just speaking of people being uncertain in the situation, when do you believe the timeline will be for public schools to be deemed COVID safe? I've heard countless stories from my niece, family, friends, and even children just finding it difficult to adapt to the online learning system.
Yeah, the online learning system has been really tough on a lot of families. You got folks at home that are working from home, and their kids are going to school at home. You got multiple kids in multiple classrooms. You need 3 or 4 different laptops set up. We're getting bandwidth problems because everyone on the internet at the same time. So it's been really tough. And kids aren't getting the same experience. Half the education experience, or more than that, is the interactions when you're in school with your friends and teachers and just the way you learn to interact. So kids are missing out on that. That's why I think more than ever, the number one priority has got to be the vaccination. If everyone is vaccinated, we know that we're not going to have those same spikes in ICU or extreme health risk situations where people need to get on ventilators. The vaccine, the whole point of it is to keep people safe. If there is an infection, it's not going to get too serious. So that's got to be our focus. The only way we're going to be truly safe in school is if people are vaccinated. I think that's what all the public health experts are saying. There's many other things we need to do. Keep people physically distanced, make sure there's good protocols in place. Paid sick leave is vital. But really, once we have the vaccine and everyone vaccinated, that's the only time we're really going to know that people are not going to get really sick.
Right. It's an interesting conversation, right? Because think about, I finished school. Nate's almost finished school, and I'm sure you have finished school as well.
It's been a minute, not too long.
we never experienced the online learning to the degree that kids nowadays are using, right? So it's just, 8-7 hours a day, you're kind of sitting on this laptop using the same thing. And I think another question I had was the work from home scenario. A lot of workplaces have realized a lot more jobs can be done via working from home. Do you think going forward, even after this pandemic is done, maybe the work-life balance situation kind of adjusts in this country as well?
Well, that's probably one of the positive things. The difficult thing is schools and kids going to online learning. That's been very difficult. Right. But for a lot of people, working from home is actually a great way to be able to connect with your family more, a better lifestyle for a lot of people. It gets rid of a very difficult commute. So the work from home is actually opening up a lot of doors. And I think it's going to be a positive thing. That's the silver lining in a lot of difficulty and a lot of pain. The one silver lining is a lot of businesses learning, a lot of work can be done from home, and it was discouraged, I think, or not as often encouraged. And right. Now I think more people will realize, or more businesses will realize they can get the same work done. And it's in a lot of ways better for the worker to be able to work from home.
Hey, I'll sign up for anything that involves a 3-day weekend. 3-day weekend. I'll sign up for that. I like that.
Yeah, I believe there's good evidence on that too, actually. So about that.
Not bad. So kind of switching topics here to something different, but something equally as important. You led the charge to ban the Proud Boys and officially have them declared as a terrorist organization in Canada. This is kind of a loaded question here, but do you feel as if white nationalism and white supremacy has become a more prevailing issue in Canada as well?
Oh, absolutely. It's sad to say this, but for sure. And one of the things that we sometimes get distracted by is that we see things in the States and say, oh, it's so bad there. We're not that bad. Right. And the reality is we've got our own systemic racism that has massive impacts on people's lives. And when it comes to extreme right-wing groups or white supremacist groups, they're on the rise. In 2015, there was about 150 groups. And fast forward now to present, and they've more than doubled. So these groups are on the rise. And the really troubling thing is the systemic racism in security forces has shown when white supremacists and extreme right-wing groups openly said they were going to attack the Capitol. And the experts, seeing that evidence, ignored it.
Right.
And the cause or the outcome of that is people lost their life. There was a lot of really dangerous situations that could have become even worse. So systemic racism means resources are not being used for the real and urgent threats, and it puts us more at risk. It puts us more in danger. And so why we brought this forward, why I want to bring this forward is we've known for years that the real threat to security to Canadians comes from extreme right-wing groups. They are the real threat. White supremacists are the real threat, but they've been ignored. Systemic racism has meant that when they have a threat, when they put out a threat, it's not deemed as serious. It's not given the same attention. And that's why we said, listen, we've got to change the focus here and focus on those that are really the urgent and extreme risk to Canadians now.
Right.
I honestly couldn't agree more, to be honest. And you're talking about like what's happening in America, and Canadians are really saying that exists over here as well too. But what has transpired over the last year in the United States, it's made a lot of Canadians ask a lot of questions about race here in Canada. I want to specifically to ask you, there's this notion that, racism doesn't exist here in Canada, or oh, it's not as bad over here compared to America. As a visible minority yourself, what do you have to say about the situation?
Oh, we've got systemic racism. Look at the treatment of Indigenous people. Toronto, one of the most diverse cities in the world, had this practice of carding, much like New York had stop and frisk, where people were being stopped disproportionately just because they were Black. Young Black men, Indigenous, racialized people were being stopped just because of the color of their skin. We saw extreme brutality in police that were arresting and killing racialized people. We've got examples of a racialized man, elderly man in Malton, one of the suburbs of Toronto, who was by himself at home. The family called, a mental health crisis was happening. Police showed up and they battered down his door and shot the man in his own house while he was by himself. Right. Contrast that with, and I got a lot of heat for saying this, but it's true. You had another person, a white man, drive his truck, crash the gates of Rideau Hall with weapons, guns, effectively trying to attack the Governor General or the Prime Minister of Canada. And he was de-escalated, arrested peacefully. Look at those two examples. A racialized man was shot in his own home, and another man with guns breaks down the gate of Rideau Hall with clearly violent intent, was de-escalated and arrested. And I'm not saying that that man should have been shot. I'm saying that everyone should be entitled to de-escalation. Right. And we see very clearly Indigenous people that are treated with brutality and beaten and shot. Racialized people, the same thing happens. We've got those problems in Canada. Our criminal justice system disproportionately puts racialized people in jail. Our education system is set up so that it's harder for racialized people to get ahead. The evidence is overwhelming in schools, in workplaces, in health. The outcomes are not the same for racialized people, and it's just a fact.
So, I mean, with all these prevailing issues, right? What is the solution, I guess, to try to, because systemic racism is in itself trying to break down a system and go into it and try to change it, right? What is the way you'd have to do that?
Well, first you got to acknowledge the problem. I think that's been missing, right? People are just ignoring it or not admitting the problem. Second thing is not the sexiest solution, but it actually works, is having good data, having disaggregated race-based data that shows the practice and the outcome. You know, whether it's in carding, one of the reasons we were able to identify it is because we had evidence that people were being stopped more just because of the color of their skin. If we've got that same sort of data in all areas, whether it's in healthcare, in education outcomes, in employment, that's where we can identify the problems to solve them. I think we need to look at, when we look at social programs like universal healthcare, if we invest in housing, the more we invest in things that people need, that lift people out of poverty, that bring in more equity, they are going to help people who are the most marginalized. So if we have universal pharmacare, so everyone can access medication, those who are most marginalized will benefit from that the most. If we build homes that people can afford, apartments that people can afford to rent, places that people can live, that's going to help those who are most marginalized. So a lot of the social programs where we invest in these things together are going to help, you know, women who are often the most marginalized, racialized people who are often marginalized, people living with disabilities. So I think those universal social programs are really one of the key things we need to do.
Right. Another interesting kind of thing that happened over the U.S. in the past couple of months has been the GameStop situation with the U.S. stock market, earlier this year, and it brought up the idea of social media regulation and how social media plays into everything that we see now. Right? I know you're active yourself on social media. We'll get into that in a little bit, but sure. What are your thoughts on, just in general, how to tackle that type of situation and, what transpired?
Well, with GameStop, I say that it's not your regular investor that's a problem. If we look at investing, it's Wall Street and Bay Street that are the problem. They're the ones, especially Wall Street, whose greed nearly led to the collapse of the entire world economy. Right. That's the problem. They need to be regulated. Big businesses, big banks, big investors, they need to be regulated. And your local, casual investor, that's not the problem. Really what happened was hedge fund investors got upset because regular folks were basically doing what hedge fund folks do on a daily basis. They were getting upset about it. And really that's no injustice. The injustice is when you've got lack of regulation and corporate greed that ends up meaning that people lost their homes, lost their livelihood, lost their pensions, lost their life savings. That's the problem. And that should never happen.
Right.
No, that's definitely 100% facts. I want to talk more about
big facts. Put that facts,
nothing
that facts
but,
emoticon all over the window right here.
Can't believe we got 8 questions in without saying big facts, bro. So big facts. Bro.
I had to. It was slipping out eventually. You know what I mean? I was trying to hold it in, but I want to talk about your earlier career. Before entering politics, you were a criminal defense lawyer, and I read somewhere that that's what inspired you to pursue politics to begin with. So I just want to know, like, what aspect of the legal system motivated you to get involved earlier?
Well, a part of it was as a lawyer, I was helping one person out at a time. I'd have a client going through some struggles, and I would help one person at a time. And so my brother, Gainstop Singh, a really good friend, Jagmeet Singh, kind of encouraged me that there's a way to help out the broader community, an entire neighborhood, an entire city, an entire province, the country, and to look at ways that we could do that. So that experience, having helped one person at a time as a lawyer versus in a position of leadership as an elected official, you can help out your entire neighborhood, community, city, region, riding. That was really one big thing. Really, my brother and my good friend, they kind of guilt tripped me into it. They said, you're doing great work as a lawyer and helping out with social justice issues on the side, but you could do so much more if you made this your full-time thing. And I was resistant to the idea for a while, and I eventually got convinced. And I'm really thankful because I get to connect with people, fight for them, bring in real changes that have made people's lives better. And it's an incredibly rewarding path. And I'm so thankful that I'm on it.
Right. You yourself, you've had a chance to live in various different parts of Canada, right? Newfoundland.
Yeah.
I was reading somewhere, Ontario, Windsor, Scarborough, shout out Scarborough, and now British Columbia, right?
That's right.
What are because I haven't gone everywhere you've gone, to be honest. I've been Ontario, Quebec, haven't got the chance to go to British Columbia, would love to once this pandemic is over, but
yes, must do.
It's a must do. What are some, I guess, differences you've noticed throughout Canada that you've recognized?
First of all, Canada is incredible. Like, I encourage people, it's hard to do, especially back when we could travel, you could get a flight to Mexico or to Cuba for cheaper than flying within Canada. So it kind of discouraged local tourism or domestic tourism. But we've got some incredibly beautiful places and incredibly beautiful people who are just so loving, caring, and open-hearted and welcoming. And I think, you mentioned what are things that are different. I would like to start by saying we actually have this very common trait. Wherever you go in Canada, there is this feeling that people want to take care of their neighbor. They want to take care of the people around them. And it's not surprising that we're, though we have the States as a border, we have universal health care because it's an easy argument to make. People do believe we should make it so that someone can get health care no matter how much they earn or what's in their bank account. So that was really encouraging. There's just different feelings, like Newfoundland, Labrador. Newfoundland is oceanside. You kind of always got the ocean air. It's the Atlantic, so it's a bit cooler. And so people, like, once it's warm, if there's a bit of sunshine, a bit of warmth, people, like, patio season has a whole new definition in the Atlantic because the weather is so finicky and it's so limited, that window where it is warm. Right. Once it is, like, people just flock outdoors. So there's that feeling. West Coast, there's so much access to the ocean, to mountains. The people are very much outdoors, really focused on getting a hike in and getting out in nature. You're kind of immersed in it. So that's very different. Prairies have got their own vibe. Frigid winters. If we think our winters are cold, right now in the prairies are hitting -30, -40 regularly. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But then all of Canada has pretty nice hot summers. So it's kind of a beautiful thing that we kind of earn our lumps. Like, we take our lumps with the cold winter, and then we get these beautiful summers, which are epic everywhere in Canada. Yeah. So there's lots of cool things, lots of similarities, lots of differences.
Awesome.
Nice. Awesome. That's it. I'm convinced now.
I just kind of took you on a tour of Canada a little bit right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After this pandemic, you've sold me. I'm already going to go and travel. Greatest tour guide, all very detailed.
I've heard Banff is really nice. I've heard Banff is beautiful. Like the whole.
Oh yeah, like all the mountains. Like Alberta's got the Rockies, BC's got a bit of the Rockies, and it's got the coastal mountains. just epic stuff. Like stuff that people want to go around the world and find mountains. We've got the best.
You got it right here. Right.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. I just want to switch gears for a second and talk about some issues outside of Canada.
Sure.
You've called on the Canadian government to condemn violence against farmers' protests in India. For our listeners who may not be too familiar, could you explain the farmers' protest that's going on in India and the importance of you starting a petition?
For sure. The reason why it's so near and dear to so many people in Canada is because many people who left South Asia, left India, came from farming backgrounds and have a lot of family or loved ones that are still farmers. And what's going on in India, what's been going on for a long time, is that farmers have been having a harder and harder time to earn a living. So there's farmer suicides are on the rise, where farmer could not pay back their bills and they end up committing suicide. So it's already been this epidemic. Wow. And then on top of that, the current government is very right-wing and is putting forward laws that are basically privatizing the farming sector. They used to have at least some levels of protections for farmers. They're trying to get rid of those as well. So it's going to privatize the farming sector, make it harder for farmers to earn a living. And farmers are basically saying, hey, enough's enough. Like, it's already been hard. We need to be able to earn a living. Farmers feed cities. They feed communities. With no farmer, no food. That slogan makes a lot of sense. And so they're saying, well, we're standing up for our rights. And India is still very largely an agrarian society, more than a lot of other communities. There's lots of small scale farmers that are, or more than a lot of other countries, there's lots of small scale farmers that are earning their primary living through farming. So right now, people are saying this is one of the world's largest protests, peaceful protests. At one point, 250 million people were protesting, like unheard of numbers, just record breaking. And it's largely been a peaceful movement where people are standing up for their rights. They've got, they started setting up services, which is really cool. So they went to the capital city and they're protesting, but at the same time, they're thinking about how they can give back. So they set up schools, free schools for kids. They set up free food. So they cook food and serve it to people. So it's been pretty incredible. And what's been happening, though, despite the peaceful protests, the government has been clamping down on the protesters with violence, beating the protesters, arresting journalists. Many journalists were threatened and arrested and silenced. So internet's been cut off a number of times. They've been banning people from tweeting. So it's very clear that the Indian government and the Indian state are trying to silence and oppress the protesters and try to silence even journalists covering the story. So it's been horrible, the human rights violations perpetrated by the Indian government against these peaceful farmers who are just raising their concerns.
Right, of course. And I find it interesting that you brought that up, because I learned most of what you just mentioned from TikTok. TikTok was actually a perfect place for me to learn the quick messaging. And I know this is a great segue King podcast. Let's do it. You are extremely active on TikTok. Your TikToks are great as well. With the NDP, especially when I joined with my riding in high school to kind of volunteer with the NDP. One of the things that was always said is, this is like the young people's party. This is the young person's party, and this is like a good welcome into politics. Do you agree with that notion? Do you agree that it's the young person's party?
Well, I mean, I know for sure it is right now. We got some incredible polling that shows that for the first time ever in the history of our country, I'm pretty sure that our differential between the next party from 18 to 35-year-olds, we're at like 37% support, which is massive, because the next party down is at 26%, and that's the Liberals. So we definitely have captured the imagination of young people. I feel like young people have been sold out in a lot of ways. They feel like the system is rigged against them, and it is. It's harder for young people now to build the type of life that their parents had. It's the first time ever where the next generation has it harder and has less prosperity than the previous generation. So they're feeling like they've been taken advantage of. The system is rigged. And I believe they're going to make history in the next election. And I'm honored that they've seen in me someone who's willing to fight for them, a champion for them. But yeah, I think the NDP generally skews young, because young people still dream big and know that we can do better and haven't kind of become cynical. And I think cynicism is easy in life. Like, it's easy to become cynical and be like, it's not going to matter if I try. It doesn't matter if I go do this. And I feel like as people get older, they get more cynical and they stop believing that we can do better. We can make better things happen. You deserve to have nice things. Like,
I do.
You know, I believe that. Like, you know, universal health care and education that's barrier free and dental care. Like, people deserve these nice things.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. This is the time for the quick hitters.
Okay.
Just fun questions. They're just fun ones. All right. So,
Okay.
so fun hat on. Get it ready. All right.
My fun turban is on. It's pink.
It is on.
So
All right. I like it. You are, and we just brought up the pink turban. We'll bring it up now. You are one of the most fashionable politicians.
Easily.
All right. And I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of Wikipedia things about you being like top 10 in this, top 15 in this, all that stuff, right? I'm going to give you 3 different types of days, and you tell me the fits you would rock on those particular days. Okay.
Okay.
We'll start with the first one. A really important meeting. Let's say you're meeting up with, you're going to a political meeting. What is the attire you're wearing there?
Custom suit. I believe less is more. I actually don't have a lot of clothes, but I've got high quality things. Made in Canada, custom suit. Keep it sharp. Keep it local.
Okay. I like it. All right.
Okay.
Go
What
for it.
about a day in the park with the family?
Ooh.
Honestly, if I'm not wearing a suit, I love tracksuits. I'm always in tracksuits. Shout out to reigning champ, Canadian brand, which I like a lot. Cotton, tracksuit. I like the simplicity, top bottom being the same.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, this is you at your most bedazzled. Okay. A fashion show. You are going to a fashion show, red carpet style. What are you wearing?
Probably a tux. I like tuxes. I once was known for overdressing. Like, I break out. If someone sneezed, I thought, oh, should I wear a tux for that? Like, I just kind of, I feel like, I don't know, maybe there's lots of social justice issues with this comment, but I kind of grew up watching James Bond, and there's something about breaking out that tux. It's like a power suit on steroids. So
Right,
I don't know. I got a nice tux. I break that out.
I respect the James Bond style. You rock it. It's
I
good.
can see it for sure. I gotta ask you. In high school, you were a grappling champ. How did you get into the sport of MMA?
So I was a kid who got picked on a lot. My parents noticed that, and so they wanted me to build confidence. So they put me into martial arts. Mm-hmm. So I started this love for martial arts early on. I continued it. I got into wrestling. I was captain of my wrestling team, and then I watched my first UFC back in the day when it was on VHS, and this skinny guy named Hoist Gracie won the tournament, beat out all these bigger guys. I'm like, what is he doing? It looked like it was like magic, like the small guy beating out, tapping out way bigger people. And that was the power of martial arts. You know, the idea being, if you've got 2 people, if someone's got more training, they should be able to take out someone bigger than them, stronger than them, with more training, more technique. So I love that element of it. And I just got more and more into it. I started training a lot. I did boxing, kickboxing. I trained with people that were professional fighters. I was on their sparring and training camps. So I got really into it. At one point, I was actually thinking about making it into a career, but I kept on my path for law school. But I competed in lots of tournaments. So I enjoyed that. I competed in submission grappling tournaments. Yeah. So we've got some old footage. Thinking about putting that out some point, just show folks. I want to get back into it again because I love it. And I still got some of the skills. So I was trying to train, and then the pandemic hit. But hopefully in the future, I can train again and get back into the ring and compete in the grappling tournaments.
I mean, you probably can't answer this, but I know Prime Minister Trudeau also used to box, right? So you have to go, if you have to go one-on-one, you know? I know.
No, so the thing is, I mean, without being conceited, so Trudeau boxed like for this one charity boxing, and then kind of got into it. I've been training and fighting my whole life. Like, I had to fight in the streets. I had to fight training, competing. Yeah, there's levels to this. So some people are playing checkers, some people are playing chess. So,
I appreciate it. Okay.
I might be playing chess out here a little bit. No disrespect to the checker players. I know that there's like really high-end checkers as well, but you know the analogy.
I got you. You were playing Among Us with AOC and Hassan Piker. Talk about the experience of how it was to kind of mix politics while playing technically video games.
Listen, I was out of my league. I played a game or two. Like, I play video games every now and then, so I'm not like I'm not unknown to video games. Like, it's something that I'm familiar with. Right. But I was just too like shook. Like, you got the biggest streamer in the world. You got AOC, who's just an amazing, fierce, powerful voice. And I was just a little shook. So there's many times where I was just quiet and just like, what is going on? But it was actually really enjoyable. We got to drop in some gems about how we can fight for a better world. We got to compare notes. AOC and I. Hassan is amazing. We had lots of really cool folks on that. There's that one guy with a really deep voice. Oh, what is his name? Anyways, he's also a big time streamer with this epically deep voice, and people don't know who he is because he's never really shown his face, and he's kind of this well-known character. Cool. Anyways, it was really cool. Lots of really cool folks, and we actually had some people that were the programmers that worked on Among Us who were also in the game as well, which was really random. Like people who designed the game, who were playing it. Yeah, it was fun. It was really cool. But it's cool because it's a way to like make politics more approachable. So we did a Twitch stream and people were chatting and sharing, and it was kind of a cool way to connect.
Yeah, I mean, sidebar on this, but I do think that's something that's really caught my attention with you yourself. It's just like you're trying to make politics cool again in a way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. As a guy who grew up appreciating politics and liking it, it's cool that it's kind of brought back into the forefront with it. Go ahead, Nat. I know you got your question loaded.
No, for sure. And the listeners are definitely going to want me to ask this question. They'll kill me if I don't ask you this question. But we're mostly a music podcast. But we got to know, what does Jagmeet Singh listen to on the daily basis? What's in his playlist? Come on, you got to let us know.
I would be happy to. First off, I've recently really taken a new plunge back into music in a way that when I was a kid, my parents had like a nice system, like a whatever, not like a super fancy, but like a hi-fi system where you plug the speakers in, you got two different loudspeakers, you plug it into receiver. And I remember something about the music being really, really good. And I don't remember exactly what it was. I just remember the music being better. And then I've been chatting with different friends and producers who work so hard to make good music. And they say, there's one producer friend of mine's like, I work so hard to make this music sound good. And most people listen to it on a cell phone and they're missing out all the intricacy of what I'm trying to layer into this track. Yeah. And it got me thinking, like there's something about that. So I got a new system now. It's like Canadian made speakers, and it's the streaming amplifier that kind of takes music at a high res and keeps it high quality and amplifies it out. Canadian company as well. So I got this nice system and I'm really enjoying music. So it's great that you asked me because I'm just really appreciating it to another level. So Canadian stuff I listen to Division. I was early on Division, way before Division. Now I think it's getting bigger and bigger, but I was onto Division really early. Jesse is someone I like a lot and someone who's incredibly talented. So I'm a big fan of her. I like a lot of R&B. I like a lot of like.
So do we.
Her.
So do we. Yeah.
Yeah. Her, SZA, LMA. Those are folks that I really like to jam with. I got a big appreciation for reggae and soca randomly. And I'm heavy soca head. I think I fell in love with Caribbean culture randomly because when I went to Western, there were jams that the South Asian Association students group and the Caribbean Student Association would throw together. So half the night would be Bhangra and the other half would be like dancehall and reggae and soca. So I got so much into soca. I've played mass. We wear the costume and jump up in the parade. So I love lots of different genre, but I really enjoy enjoy good music. Really love it.
Awesome. That's awesome.
It's a good list. It's a great list.
That's a very good list. Very, very good list. This is like a no good podcast staple. We ask every person this question. Yeah. It's called the No Good Podcast for a reason. So what is no good to you, but is good to others? So in another sense, what do people love, but you yourself aren't the biggest fan of?
Oh, okay. What do people love that I'm not?
Could be as simple as a pizza topping. Could be as bad as a political topic. I don't know.
Okay. What's no good to me is letting the wealthiest in our society get away with not paying their fair share. And it's commonly done. It happens all the time. People argue, we can't tax them because they would leave. I don't buy that for a second. The wealthiest should be paying their fair share. So it's no good to me that the richest people in this world and the richest billionaires and multimillionaires and biggest companies don't actually pay their fair share. That's no good.
I think that's the best question we've gotten to that answer, Nat.
Honestly, best answer to the question, for sure. Cool answer still.
Did Donovan Bennett give you a better answer to that? I don't think Donovan Bennett gave you a better.
No. Definitely not. But before we go, let our listeners know what we can support, what's coming up next, what we can put our energy and effort behind.
Sure. We right now we've launched a campaign to support seniors in long-term care. So if you're into that, please check out our website. We're continuing to push for dismantling white supremacy and extreme right-wing groups. We got one group banned, which is a big victory, but there's still more to do. So that's something huge. Systemic racism, of course. We want to have healthcare cover people head to toe. So your dental care and your medication should all be covered. So check that out as well. And I'm out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Jagmeet Singh, for taking time out of your super busy schedule to come and sit with us here today at the No Good Podcast. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hey, I loved it. It was a lot of fun. You guys are great. Lots of success to you. More power, more life.
Thank you very much.
Until next time, it's the boys from the No Good Podcast. We'll see you soon. Thank you for sitting down, man.
It's good. This is good. I'm glad y'all are doing really well too. Congrats on all the success.
Thanks. We're trying.
This is cool. So you did some NDP stuff in the past, eh?
Both of us did in high school. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Dope.
Richmond Hill NDP, man. Richmond Hill NDP.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Richmond Hill is proof that you truly are Persian background. So that's for sure. How about you, Nathaniel? Where were you?
Same Richmond Hill. We used to be next.
Oh, y'all are Richmond Hill Connects.
Yeah, we were next door neighbors.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, man.
I'm still friends with my next door neighbor from when I was a kid too. He's like my oldest friend. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
very cool.
Yeah.
Glad to see this. That's awesome. Well,
thanks again.
Lots of
really
success to you.
it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm going to be bragging in a couple of years when I say that I have interviewed the future Prime Minister of Canada. So
yes, sir.
Thank you. Man. That's the future. That's the goal. Fight for people at the top. We're gonna do it.
Awesome.
Yes,
thank you.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for watching our video, and if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe, and watch our other videos.
Pick 'em right there.